guys, this is Pastor Sterling from Freedom Church. We are here with Pastor Kyle, and we're doing our men's podcast to encourage men to see some transformation in their lives. And you can listen to this not like it's a 3 to 5 minute video where it's bite-sized and you're hearing like a little sermon encouragement, but it's to really listen as a podcast. So you can listen while you're driving, getting ready in the morning, maybe while you're doing something mindless at work. And we'll also have resources sent out in this email at the bottom. You can go and check those out and follow along with this podcast. And today's topic is about anger, and I think it's going to be a really great topic. What do you think?
It's going to be a really good one. And you
good.
guys, hey, this is our second episode. You guys are going to have to bear with us. This is going to get better and better, and just think what we're going to be like a year from now.
Oh, man.
But Sterling, this is why we're doing this, because we want men in freedom. All of these men watching, we would love for you to know that none of us are perfect, and we're just trying to do this together.
Right.
And we're going to present topics like anger and finances and working through all this stuff, to know that as we come to church on Sunday, it looks like everything's perfect. The down deep, we're all fighting together. And you and I, we're just going to talk about it, expose it, tell personal stories. We're going to look at scripture, and we're just going to have fun.
Yeah, and today we have not actually rehearsed all of this.
No.
We put a lot of information, but we have not. So it's going to be kind of rapid fire and a little bit of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. But we wanted to kind of get kicked off with James 1, verses 19 through 21. And I'll just read that. It says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Not everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry, because human anger doesn't produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you." And I think that that's so important, that just that verse 20, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And we don't want to have sin or anger or anything that's really separating us from God to keep us from being righteous and understand God's plan for our lives.
Sterling, the first thing that throws me off sides in 19, where it says everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For the majority of my life, I've done the opposite of that, right? I was slow to listen, but I was quick to speak, and extremely quick, volatile, to become angry.
Yeah, right. And it's easy to do when you want things to be a certain way, and then they are not turning out
so
that way.
I'm already working in opposition of what God wants for my life. I'm walking down a very dangerous path, a destructive path.
Yeah, right off the bat, with every reaction to decisions. You had Proverbs 29 on here that I thought was incredible too. Would you like to read that?
Yeah, but I want to go back. Let's stay there for a second.
Okay.
Because it says you got to get rid of moral filth and evil that's prevalent, and humbly accept the word and get it planted in you. I think we missed that when we were talking about anger. That's a real good formula that you added in there. That, man, when I got sin in my life, I'm quicker to get angry. Mm-hmm. When I'm not in right standing with God, I'm quicker to throw the wrench and hit the wall and
that is true.
Choke the chicken or whatever you got around you, right? There's a lot of things there that can fuel you even harder. But in order to get to that spot of getting rid of anger, you got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
And get the word of God inside of you.
Yeah.
And I look at some of the times in my life when I was most angry, there may have been sin in my life, and the word wasn't planted as deeply as it should have been.
And maybe that sin was pride, where you thought higher of yourself than of God or other people.
Didn't need
and that's not how anything is really explained from Christ in the red words, and in Matthew chapter 5 through 7, and so many other places, even in James, that talk about loving others and seeing them as higher than yourself, and submitting yourself to them and honoring them, and not looking at the poor and the lowly as lower than you, but looking at everyone, no matter the status, or as better than yourself. So yeah, absolutely.
And if we could just be honest, probably the king killer of anger is getting rid of pride.
Yeah.
Because probably pride is the thing that juices up that anger problem.
Yeah.
But then look, this is the salvation for us all. In James, he says very end, which can save you.
Come on.
So we can be delivered from anger.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of men out there struggling with anger.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things we don't talk about a whole lot. We'll talk about our porn problem. Right. We'll talk about, all of these money problems, but no one really wants to get down and talk about the anger. Yeah. There is salvation from anger, and that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah, that's really, really good. I completely agree, and I think that it's interesting that maybe even 15 years ago we talked less about porn and some of these other major topics, addictions, if you will, and now we're talking more about those and less about some of the even maybe core things like anger. And so I think it's really great to talk about this and even share some of our own experiences today. I'm looking forward to it.
So you said Proverbs 29:11, and I will take full in this. In my life, one of the biggest struggles has been this topic.
Yeah.
Not not big porn or lust or, money or trying to chase things that weren't mine, covetousness. One of my biggest struggles has been pride connected to anger. And this is what it says. Fools give full vent to their rage. You hear what it said? Full vent. Yeah, I've completely done that mega times. But the wise bring calm in the end. Fools give full vent, but the wise bring calm. And I got to say, in a lot of areas of my life, through my teenage years and young adolescence, I was not bringing calm. I was bringing full vent, hot rage, anger.
Yeah. And when you were mad like that and raging, did you kind of experience that in your own world, you kind of blamed your anger on others and their actions instead of your own issues, your own pride, your own emotions? And why do you think that sometimes it's easier to believe that anger is caused by other people instead of something or someone that is inside of you?
Yeah, I think, and I would love to hear your response on this too, but for me, it wasn't necessarily blaming others. It was when things got out of control. So if others knocked something that wasn't perfect, if someone knocked something that was out of my control, then I would begin to flare up in that anger because of not who they were, but because of them knocking a perfect picture away. What about you?
Yes, you have expectations, and I've had expectations my whole life. And this is really a common thing. It's kind of funny in our household, even growing up, but especially now that I've been married. My wife and I, we've been married 8 years as of this last month of January. But I've learned my own anger issues with systems and organizations. I want things to be organized and clean, and that way, if I am busy or if I'm in a rush, I can get to things and I can find something in the house, and it's easy to get to. I don't want to have to go through a big mess of a closet to try to find one thing that I need when I'm trying to pack and get out of the house if we're going on a weekend trip to family or something like that. But even as something as stupid as in the morning trying to make breakfast, and if I try to open a cabinet and get something out, like a plate or a to-go cup for coffee, and everything falls out, man, I'm quick to just get so mad. That woman, she just puts stuff in there and doesn't even think about it. But it's like, why am I blaming her? Why am I being so upset? This is normal. We're part of a family. We live together. We're trying to do things together. And she doesn't see things the same way that I do. I can't expect her to live her life the exact same way and live in my mind. It's just insane. And so I think it's easy to blame others instead of your own emotions, your own understanding of the world, your own understanding of yourself, and think that everyone else should just bow to who you are and your needs and your whims. So I've definitely felt that in my life.
One of the things that I kind of live by, I live by two rules, and it's good and bad. I don't want to waste money, and I don't want to waste time. And I've seen my anger flare up over those things, which revolve around people. If you're wasting my time, I get angry. You're wasting my money, I get angry. And when those two things kind of spiral out of control, that's when I've noticed in my life, I hit some high anger points.
I think for most men, that's the case. Those two are pretty big topics, finances and then, hobbies or different things where you need downtime or you need to work on something else, time and money. So I think that's really good. In these kinds of moments, the biggest struggle for you has maybe been going full throttle, working really, really hard, and not kind of taking that step back. Did you want to mention anything about that? I know that was a big talking point that we had when we were planning this a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, just kind of talk about the buttons, or as they call it now, the triggers.
Right, there you go.
The triggers that put you in that spot where when things are out of control, when my integrity was being attacked, if you're calling me a liar, or you're attacking the man of God that I am, and you're telling me I did something that I didn't do, well, I will go full throttle on you. Also, just straight up truth, and that often doesn't have to do with me. I'll go full throttle and get angry on just truth in this nation, truth in the government, truth in whatever's out there, that if people are being led astray, if someone's not being told the full truth, I can see my anger rise up, because at the end of the day, I'm a truth teller. I want the truth to be known.
Right.
And then lastly, you attack my manhood, who I am, the man that I am, personality. Yeah, those are triggers or buttons, as I would call them, that if they're pushed, and you talk about your wife, in a relationship that's so intimate and connected as a husband and wife, we know how to push each other's buttons.
Yeah. Oh, you do.
And Janelle can get them going in me quick. Boom. I can get them going to her. And you just see this volatile moment where things can get disastrous.
Yeah, and especially over time, that resentment has built where even the tone of voice or the word that you say to get into that leading moment, where they know you're going to start pushing their buttons, that builds all that resentment from the history in the past, and it just triggers right there.
Yeah.
That's the activator. Do you think, though, that some of these things you mentioned as you were talking about, I want truth to prevail. I want good. I want people to really know good things and know the truth. Don't attack you because you don't want your reputation to be slandered.
Yeah.
Can anger be a good thing?
A righteous anger?
Right? So what does that look like? I mean, what's the balance between righteous anger and prideful, sinful anger?
Yeah, to me, it's all about learning how to control the anger, right? An anger that leads you to punch a hole in the wall, an anger that, listen, Sterling, I've made huge mistakes. In fact, there was a moment in my life where I'd broken so many things as a young man in my early 20s. I'm talking keys to the car. That cost me tons of money. I'm talking holes in the wall, cabinets,
Right.
things thrown across the room, destructive.
Yeah.
I made a list one time. And I did it on a Word document, and it was like single space, 4 fonts, and it was all down the page.
Tiny.
Tiny.
You could put 100 lines on that.
And I was embarrassed, humiliated. Because you make one mistake, you don't think about it. But then when you add it up over 2 or 3 years of what you've done to break and be destructive, it's humiliating.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, writing all of those things down was humiliating. And it did break something inside of me that says, I got to stop this. It's like what you're talking about. Can there be yes, there can be a righteous anger, but it can't lead you into destruction.
Yeah.
It should lead you into righteousness, and you should be able to calm down and breathe and be able to bring a produce.
Yes, and maybe encourage others with this. This should frustrate you to action, to do something good, and not putting other people down, but bringing awareness or taking care of a problem that needs to be taken care of, especially at church. I mean, it's a really easy thing to say we need help at church, and we say that a lot. Every church does, because every church needs help. It's all volunteer ran, but it's frustrating to the pastoral team or to just leaders and volunteers like small group leaders, youth leaders, kids volunteer workers, or even parents. It's frustrating when you see a need, you see that nursery needs help, and no one's in there, and you're angry about it. Well, let that anger fuel you to action. Do something where you're trying to say, I need to help with this. Can you help this? And you talk to other parents. And at church, we want that anger to even be something that's a fuel for people. I think that it is beneficial in those ways without just being mad and sinful, but some anger can be good. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on that.
It's a great point, because a righteous anger, a godly anger, brings results in a positive light, produces change.
Yeah.
But a destructive or an evil anger, an out of control anger, like we read, the full vent anger, that tears other people down. Yeah. So if I'm mad at my coworker, and it's a righteous one, that can produce good change. But as a destructive, I'm going to tear them down. Yeah. I will slander them. I will abuse them with my mouth. Yeah. And it becomes destructive.
And it's easy to do that too.
Yes.
It's easy to do that. How are we doing on time? We have a few more minutes. We're doing great. I wanted to read this real quick because this is what we've been talking about, just for some different passages for people to maybe read. James 3, verse 16. It says, "For where you have envy and selfish ambition," which we've talked about a little bit, "there you will find disorder and every evil practice." So that selfish ambition, the things that you're wanting, the way that you think the world should run, that kind of leads to pride and arrogance. And then that comes out in those actions to where you don't have righteous anger. You have selfish anger. You have that disorder and that every evil practice. And then James 4, 1 through 2 says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you?
Yeah, that's good.
You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. Yeah. And so we think that we deserve these things, but that's kind of the problem. We think that we're not getting these things, and really being able to admit, I think part of the reason why we're angry is because we want to fix this issue or control the situation instead of handing it over to God. And maybe some of the solution to our anger is learning how to take these things to God. And I know that's been something that you've experienced. You talked to me about some moments with your family where you've seen some change in yourself, and you've learned how to take some of these things to God in your anger and learn how it affected your family, and seen God kind of move through you as you took it to Him. So tell me about this.
In my young 20s and mid 20s and even late 20s, the decade of 20s for me was my biggest struggle. When I turned 30, and saw my kids beginning to grow up. They weren't just little toddlers and eating and pooping. Like they were becoming humans with personality. I was leaving to go preach a revival, a weekend revival, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Odessa, Texas. And I'm leaving in this moment, and I blew up. I got so mad and so angry and acted like a complete child. And my kids saw me. And I leaned over, Sterling, and I saw my kids sitting on the stairs. And they watched my whole little tantrum. And I was humiliated, just like that piece of paper. I was humiliated. And I'm about to go lead a revival. I'm about to go and preach the word of God and be incredible.
Right. As an evangelist.
Yeah, as an evangelist.
Yeah.
I was like, and here I am. I just treated my wife like this, and I just talked to my kids like this, and they saw this. And I set my kids down on the stairs and with tears in my eyes, I was broken. I remember just weeping. My daughter couldn't have been but like 5 years old and my son 2 years old. But I set them down and tried to be a man of integrity and a man of repentance and said, I am sorry. Your dad acted like this, and he should never, ever act like this. And I remember from that day, that was a changing point and a moment for me. But this is what I noticed,
That is powerful, man.
That my anger would be stirred up in moments of tension that were quick. It wasn't calm moments where everybody's just sitting around lounging. It was intense, high-pressure moments that made things worse, when things had to be done quickly.
Yes, right.
And I just see that spark, that there, and then I would explode, and then I would blow up.
Yeah.
It's like one time me and my wife were in a quick moment right before going into a youth service. And once again, my wife's leading worship, and I'm preaching. And we're about to be youth pastors extraordinaire. And it was a quick moment of transition. We didn't have a lot of time.
Right.
And something sparked, and it became a forest fire. And I remember driving to the church that day, pulling off on the side of the road, and saying, we will not go into that church until we get this. I can't preach like this. You can't lead worship like this. Like, we got to get through this. And right there on the side of the road in a little dentist office, we just hashed it out, World War III. But we came to a point where it was done. It's like, all right, we good? All right, we're good. And then we could go in and minister with clear hearts. But yeah, I've just noticed that these little things flare up in quick moments, tense times, a small time frame. If you're not careful, you say, how do you combat that? How do you fight that? Number one, I've always prayed this prayer ever since then. Lord, give me a cool head in the middle of a hot storm. Because we will all have hot storms in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
In small moments.
Everybody
and you don't
does.
know when the hot storm's coming.
And everyone that's listening to this right now, and us, everyone has something big going on. Everyone has that storm. And whether they don't even feel like they're in it or not necessarily, we can all kind of dream up the storm in our lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool head, hot storm. Cool head and a hot storm. And those were two big turning points for me in my late 20s. So my kids started being there. I started to see this tension with me and my wife in these moments. I said, I have to stop. I have to grow up and be calm. So it means at times when I feel this coming on, these little hot storms, going on a walk, just walking out of the house and going to walk around the block. Doing something to divert my attention before the forest fire comes. Yeah,
and that was, while you were talking, I was thinking, I want to talk practically, and you answered it. How do you take those emotions, as cliche as it sounds, and it sounds churchy even, but really, how do you take those emotions to Jesus? How do you take that anger and step outside of yourself and your own momentary frustration and rage and practically step outside and talk to him of your world? So for you, it's removing yourself from the situation because you know if you're going to stay in that situation, it's not going to be good. You're not going to be able to hold back because of just who you've learned yourself to be. And I think just about everybody's like that. And if you're not, that's pretty surprising. But practically stepping out and taking a moment to have a conversation with Christ and say, I really need you to be with me in this moment, kind of thing.
No, absolutely. And as a quick wrap, and you kind of wind down our time here, it brings me back to taking the walk, keeping the cool head, understanding these little diversion things that you can jump into, but it's also knowing who you are. And it goes back to our identity, knowing that I can be high strung, I can be quick, and knowing that there are times I have to pull myself out of that. And be very careful to do that. And then here's the hope. It says this last thing.
Let's do it.
In James 1, it says, which you can be saved. Here's the great thing about anger. When you're young in your 20s, you got a lot of testosterone. Come on, man. We got a lot of testosterone running through our body. And what I have found is the older I get, the more calm I become. So age is a great deterrent to anger. And so sometimes you just got to look and say, hold on. Just hold on. Because you will calm down. things will slow down a little bit. I'm way different now than I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
You can be saved from anger. I've been saved from anger. There's times and moments, I can feel it. I can feel my blood pumping and my heart pounding, and I want to go into that. But then I pull back and say, God, will you help?
Yeah.
Walk away. Give me a cool head.
Yeah.
You can be saved from anger.
Yeah, and that's really good. That's also good to say if you have coworkers or employees that are young, they may just need some of that time. Give them some grace. Don't blow up them because they're blowing up.
Yes.
Sometimes that makes it worse. And then you also had something you mentioned about 3 friends. I wanted to really see if you wanted to say something more about that.
Yeah, because I think we all need a friend. And I think that's what this men's ministry group is. I think that's what Bold is. I think that's what Iron Man is.
Right.
That's what these groups are. You have men, you can walk it out. And in the beginning, I thought I was all alone. Like, I'm the only one that's a rage monster. You seen Do Perfect?
Yes.
The rage monster, like, that was me, right? I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
Then I started talking to my friends, and they're like, hey, no, they battled the same thing.
Yeah.
And then so we can call each other, text each other, FaceTime each other, and we have these moments where we're tempted, keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And I think that this anger thing comes down to an accountability.
Yeah.
Not letting it be in the dark, but bring it to light.
Yeah, and being that to someone else too, when your friend is really mad and they're upset, listening to them and saying, hey, I think you may be overreacting.
Yeah.
As an unbiased kind of third party, I think that may be a little much. You may need to be honest and go apologize to that person.
It's an outlet.
Yeah,
You need kind of a vent or an outlet.
Yeah, but maybe not in that moment. Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of wrap up with this because I just thought this was good. Philippians 2:6-7 says, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. This is Jesus.
Yep.
Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. I think we should really kind of take our cue about anger or pride or arrogance from Christ and understand that Jesus had every reason to get his own way in life. But he didn't, and that really he gave that up for us. He gave up his own life, his own pride, his own abilities to be God for us as a man. And so because of him, I don't think that these emotions have to control us because he gave himself up so that these things don't have to control us because he easily didn't have to. He didn't have to do that. We didn't deserve that, but he did that for us so that we can have the advocate and we can have an example. So thank you for your time today.
Great.
Your stories, this was, again, kind of unrehearsed, but your stories and kind of going with the flow, I thought this was a lot of fun. So thank you for your vulnerability.
Hey, thanks to all the men of freedom for listening, and hopefully we can all grow together.
Yep. Thank you, guys. And we'll have resources at the bottom of this email as well for you to take a look at. We love to help in any way that we can. So we're glad that you're here, and we'll catch you next time.